Welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 238.
Something that I was shared early on in my engineering career, and it's question the status quo. When somebody says, hey, that's the way it's always been done, don't just accept that that's the best or only solution. Always, try to do something better all the time.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Have you turned your key and heard that dreaded tick, 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 tick because of a dead battery? No worries. I've got the Naoko Genius Boost Jump Starter. This compact tool fits in your glove box and features rechargeable lithium battery technology that will start a dead battery in your car, boat, truck, or RV. It packs a whopping 12-volt, 400 amp starting power and can start up to 20 dead batteries on a single charge. Plus, it has built-in spark-proof technology with reverse polarity protection to safely jumpstart your vehicle. The compact, ergonomically designed clamps are solid copper for maximum conductivity, and there's a built-in ultra-bright dual LED flashlight with 7 modes, including an SOS emergency strobe. It's easily rechargeable with a USB outlet, and you can charge your smartphone or tablet while you're on the road. Works on any 12-volt lead-acid battery. The Genius Boost from Naoko is the ultimate emergency tool that's safe and easy to use. Quality design, state-of-the-art technology from Naoko, your battery care source since 1914. Get yours at geniuschargers.com. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. Today I am so excited to introduce a very special guest, Sean Tucker. Sean, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am strapped in and ready to go, Mark.
All right. Great to have you here. Sean Tucker is the great-grandson of the automotive visionary Preston Tucker and the co-owner of Preston Tucker, LLC. He's an automotive engineer by trade and has over 10 years of experience in design, development, and manufacturing with some of the world's leading car and truck manufacturers. Sean currently works as a quality engineer at a leading truck manufacturer and consults at Ida Automotive and Rob Ida Concepts. One of Sean's current projects includes assisting in the design and fabrication of the Tucker Torpedo concept car, a project led by Rob Ida to build the car that Sean's great-grandfather, Preston Tucker, imagined before the Tucker 48, but was never able to build. And Rob Ida has been a guest here on Cars Yeah as well. Sean, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a moment and share some more about your history, your career, and of course your passion for automobiles?
Sure, absolutely. My automotive story starts early in the 20th century with my great-grandfather, Preston Tucker, who was born in 1903. He held a number of different positions at different automakers through the 20s and his career in the 30s. He was heavily involved in Indianapolis racing. And in the 40s, early 40s, he started work on a combat car that was for the Dutch government, that eventually was tried to be pitched to the U.S. government, and they weren't interested in the car because it was too fast, but they were interested in his turret. So he had a fairly successful run there, and then moved into working with a couple of different aviation companies, and then moved into the development of the Tucker car, which is probably what he's most famous for. So
sure, yeah.
You mentioned the Tucker Torpedo that we're doing now. That was kind of the first piece of that around the 1945 period, and which eventually morphed into what we know today as the Tucker production car, which is the Tucker 48. And I guess that's a common point of confusion, I think, for people is they think they're the same car. So it's one of our challenges with recreating it is the distinction between those two.
Sure.
I guess fast forward 25 years later, and I was born with my brother Mike, who's actually a twin brother.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah, and we were born in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is the same city as the family home of Preston Tucker. So that's kind of neat.
Oh, yeah.
I guess from a really early age, I was always interested in anything cars and mechanical. So growing up with the Tucker name was pretty interesting. As a young kid, I didn't really know what that meant, but I always knew that I had an interest in all things automotive. I was always, even, before I was 10 years old, my brother and father and I were buying and selling cars and putting things together and taking them apart. It led me eventually to a professional career in engineering. I went and got an engineering degree and started working for an automotive supplier as a exhaust system engineer. And I did that for about 10 years, worked with Ford, GM, Chrysler, Nissan, and a couple of others, and got the opportunity to kind of travel all over the world to work on that. So after that, I ended up moving to the East Coast, and it's actually the old guy chases girl story. So she moved, so I ended up moving as well.
Uh-huh.
It did end up working out. We're getting married in June. So that's
great.
thing.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing it did was put me much closer to the Ida's Rob and Bob Ida shop, which I'd known of Rob and Bob, and we were had some acquaintance with the original Tucker that they had put out. But I guess one of the bigger opportunities for me was now I had a chance to actually get involved maybe in some of their projects. So I kind of said, hey, can I come visit one day? And I guess I just never really left. Like from then on, we were meeting every week and seeing how I could help out with the different projects. So
yeah,
it's been a definite fun ride for the last few years here, and got to do some pretty amazing things.
Well, it sure sounds like it. And what's really cool about this is to be able to work with somebody like Rob and his father and see something that is from your family past come to real life. It must be absolutely amazing for you.
Yeah, it's almost surreal. And Rob, I think he has a very big interest in interesting cars and interesting projects. And one of the really neat ones that we got to work on a couple of years ago was the Gyronaut X1. It was the world's fastest motorcycle in the mid-'60s, but the connection with the Tucker was it was designed by the same guy that designed the Tucker, Alex Tremulous. Mm-hmm. When we started on the project, the bike is actually now owned by Steve Tremulous, who's Alex Tremulous's nephew. So here we are, 50, 60, whatever years later, and it's the Idas, the Tuckers, and the Tremuluses kind of getting together to bring this thing back. And we ended up getting it all finished and taking it out to the Bonneville Salt Flats, and it was just a really, really neat story. And I certainly don't take any of it for granted.
Yeah.
I like to, recognize, hey, these things that are happening are special, and it definitely puts some perspective to it.
It really is cool. I love the whole thing. Everything about the story is fantastic. As we continue on your journey, I'd like to ask you for a success quote. This is something that's been instrumental in forming your life and your success. It's a great way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So, Sean, take the wheel.
Well, I'd like to share something that I was shared early on in my engineering career, and it's question the status quo. When somebody says, hey, that's the way it's always been done, don't just accept that that's the best or only solution. Always, try to do something better all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how have you incorporated that into your career?
A lot of times with I guess working in some of the bigger corporations, there is a lot of that, hey, well, we've always done it this way. And I think in applying that, stepping back from a particular situation sometimes and saying, hey, well, now maybe we can do this better. It's really kind of driven me to at least take stock of that going through any project. And it's actually not even limited to my professional career. It's limited to it goes on to hobbies, all kinds of different stuff. It's just, I'm always kind of questioning, hey, how can I do this a little bit better or a little bit different, make it better than it was?
Sure, absolutely. I worked with a gentleman years ago, and he had a great saying about that. He said, when people in a company start to say, well, this is the way we've always done it, the company really needs to take a step back and reassess because they've gotten really boring and really lazy.
Yeah, for me, it's almost a warning sign to say, hey, I should pursue this. If somebody says that particular phrase, it makes me want to go, well, that's what I'm going to work on then. Because
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a good answer,
That's great. I understand. You talked about growing up in this Tucker family surrounded with automotive heritage and history and motor oil flowing through your veins. Would you share a story with me that instigated your passion for cars? Tell me about that pivotal moment as you remember it when you really knew you were a car guy.
Yeah, for sure. I can think of I guess one of my earliest memories of the Tucker car and just realizing what kind of that was is I was probably about 5 years old, and my dad had taken my sister and brother and I to a parade in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I think it was for July 4th or something like that. And there was a Tucker there, and being though young, I didn't really grasp what it meant. So I remember walking up to the car and going, that's a Tucker. It's got my name on it. And I thought,
yeah, what's going on here?
Yeah. And I went, you know what? This must just be every family has a car, and this is just our car. So this is nothing unusual. This is just, we're just going to ride in this, and everyone has this. So as a kid, it didn't really strike me at that point until when I started getting into school, and then I went, oh wait, maybe this is actually something different. And it's not long after that, I guess, in 1988, when the Tucker movie was released, that really kind of put it into perspective. We had TV people at the house, and we're doing all kinds of things that other people weren't doing. So it was a kind of a special time. And
sure. And let me ask you, regarding that movie, as far as your perception of it, was it pretty true to what happened with your great-grandfather?
Yeah, I mean, the core story is pretty much intact. So there's a gentleman that's done quite a bit of research on some of the pieces of that, and they took some artistic license on certain pieces, but the core story is really pretty intact. I mean, you're really getting a pretty good representation of what happened at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one of the biggest things is there's the wrong number of children that they show in the movie. My grandfather's shown as a young man, very young, when in reality he was much older during the story. But,
yeah.
It gets the big points across.
Well, that's good to hear. I love that. Sean, what I'd love to do now is take a look at some of the roads you've driven down and crawl under the hood and get our hands a little dirty and ask you to share with me a huge challenge or even a great failure that you've faced along the way in your career. But the most important part of this question has to do with how did you overcome that? And of course, what did you learn from it?
Sure. So one of the things I did really early on in my engineering career, I was working for a automotive supplier and an exhaust systems development engineer position. I got the opportunity to work with Holden in Australia on the Pontiac GTO project that was being exported from Australia to GM North America. And it was a very small team of people, and I was kind of put in charge of all the development, the development engineering pieces of that particular project. So it was a very intimidating thing to be presented with as a younger engineer. It forced me to, spend a lot of time traveling the 14-hour flight from Australia and back, and spending lots of time in a country that's, so far away that you have to even plan a phone call home with a lot of people that I'd never even met. So
sure.
It was really kind of a growing up and learning experience for me, and the project itself was very challenging. It was very strict timelines, very challenging targets. So as a younger engineer, I was interacting with a lot of more of the seasoned engineers at Holden and at GM North America, and I needed to really learn how to communicate and how to solve problems and how to bring people from different cultures and different mindsets together. So
right.
It was a really, really positive experience for me. And in looking back on me, I can't think of on my experience. I can't really think of another thing that would have been more beneficial to me. So that particular project was really great, and I made some great friends that I'm still in contact with. So.
Lots of times when we're pushed to our limits is when we the best in us comes out and shines. And
sure,
it sounds like that was one of those experiences for you. Let's shift gears here and go to the other end of the spectrum. I'd love for you to share one of those aha moments in your career. I always like to say it's a time when the headlights come on and kind of illuminates your way for a new direction. Tell us the steps that you took to turn your aha moment into a success.
All right. I'm probably going to use a fairly recent story on the Tucker Torpedo project.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
It's an interesting project because we have a lot of concepts and drawings, but nothing really of the technical details of the car. So we're finding that as we go through some of these different pieces of the features they wanted to put together, that some of it doesn't necessarily work. So, for instance,
okay.
yeah. So the piece I'm going to talk about specifically is the torpedo was intended to be center drive. And in some of the concept drawings, they show a seating position that has 3 seats across the front, and the 2 outer seats kind of swing out so that the passengers can get out and the driver can walk over to get into his seats. Mm-hmm. When we kind of mocked that up in SolidWorks in our CAD program, it was very clear from the beginning that it just does not fit in the car. Mm. So it led us to, okay, well, we need to do something else instead. So what we came up with was a rotating floor that's kind of modeled after a merry-go-round. So we've got a 3-position seat in which anybody can get in, and then they'll hit a button and it will rotate them around to the driving position or whichever position they want to be in. So it's, oh wow, I guess pretty unconventional for a seating setup in a car, but really practically the only way we could make it work for the torpedo. It's some of the reasons that Preston maybe didn't enjoy the design at the time or didn't pursue it were the clearances around some of the doors and things like that. It's very hard to actually fit things in there, even though it's a big car. So it's a solution where we've got the concept done, and I think it's going to be a great success.
Sounds very interesting. I can't wait to see the final produced piece. It sounds amazing. I'm sure you've had a lot of proud moments along the way in your career, but is there one that stands out for you as the best?
There is. I've had a lot of experiences with with the Tucker history and some with there's a new exhibit that opened at the AACA Museum in Hershey that has 3 Tuckers and a whole bunch of original parts. But for me, I'm really more of a hands-on guy. I like to be involved in projects. So it's really going to be the Tucker Torpedo project for me, being able to get involved in this car that was designed by my great-grandfather 70 years ago, and they just kind of, left it, and being able to pick that up and see, things that they were working on, things that they were thinking about and taking them to the next steps has easily been one of the proudest things I've been able to do.
I've got to think so. It's got to be absolutely amazing. It's going back in time, almost a Back to the Future story, and then creating something that was never built. It's just a fascinating story to me. Let's have a little bit of fun here. What was your first really special car? And if you could share a memory with me that you had with that vehicle.
Sure. So my first special car was actually, since I have a twin brother, we pretty much always split everything, even to this day. So we kind of co-owned it. But it's nice to have a business partner. But we had a 1973 BMW 2002 that we purchased when we were about 14 years old. And, it was in pretty good condition, but we really wanted to spruce it up and make it really, really good for our first car in high school. So we redid pretty much the whole thing, rebuilt the engine, painted the car, did everything on our own, really. I guess the special thing for me that I took from that car is that I can do things. It's really, you don't have to have all these big huge shops and all this stuff to do things. You can do stuff with what you've got at your own house, and really just by working hard sometimes. Uh-huh. So it really drove me to having some confidence into doing things myself.
Yeah, fantastic. Those are really fun little cars. I had a guest on the show last week, Steve Cottrell, who works at Sports Car Market Magazine, and he just posted on Facebook he just got one of those. And he's so excited. Yeah, he's so excited about it. I'd love to get another. Yeah, I have a friend here in Gig Harbor that has one as well, and really fun little cars. I think they're great.
Absolutely.
How about seller's remorse? Is there a vehicle that you've let go that you really wish you could have back in your garage?
Yes, there is. It's actually a car that my father owned when I was a younger man, and we had a Toyota FJ40 Land Cruiser. I think it was a 74, and that car's always really been kind of special to me. I can remember Saturday mornings when I was a kid, my dad and brother and I would jump in the Land Cruiser, and it had a top speed of 60 miles an hour. That's all it did. But we would run down to the donut shop and get donuts and chocolate milk, and then come back and share them with the family. And it's something I still remember and still think about and go, man, that was such a neat car. We ended up taking it apart and repainting it and doing all kinds of things with it, and eventually selling it. But I would really like to have that one back, just to get be able to relive some of those memories.
Yeah, they've kind of gotten quite expensive, those vehicles, and
Yes, they have.
if you can find one, you could always talk to Jonathan Ward from Icon, who's been on this show, and have him build you a version of that vehicle.
Yeah, I'm familiar with his work. Yeah, he does a great job.
Oh my gosh, he does incredible work. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, here's another question for you about vehicles. Is there a vehicle that you've bought in your past that after you bought it, you went, "What was I thinking?"
Yeah, well, I have one in particular. I think it's and it's a bit of a weird one. When I moved out to Pennsylvania, I bought a big. It was an ex-City of Detroit maintenance vehicle. It's a E350 van, and it's a diesel. So it's this big, giant, kind of clunky thing that we bought to move out here. But the funny thing is, I really haven't been able to get rid of it, just because it's not. It has. I still have it, and I don't really use it for much, but it's such an odd vehicle that I don't really know what to do with it. So I don't know that I really have so much remorse about it. It's just confusion of why did I ever buy this thing? So,
right, and why do I still have it?
Yeah. Why do I still own it?
Well, this next question, I know what we're going to talk about a little bit more here, at least I hope so, but it has to do with current projects, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about this current project you're working on right now that has you really excited and fired up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest project for me is the Tucker Torpedo for sure. I was actually working on it just before we started our talk, but
great.
It's given me an opportunity to do a lot of really engineering work that I wouldn't have been able to do without the IDAs and some support from SolidWorks and those types of things. So I'm doing a lot of virtual modeling and a lot of the pieces of the interior. I talked about the rotating seat. We're also working on the steering column, and the frame is getting fabricated. We're having we just had the body 3D scanned by a company to try to compare that to what our CAD model was. So for me, it's a lot of what I'm used to in my engineering career of modeling concepts and testing how they work from a virtual standpoint, which is really pretty enjoyable, especially on a car that was part of my namesake. So that's been really, really awesome. And I guess the other part of that project that's really special is the people involved with the project, Rob Ida and Bob Ida and Bob Cuneo, who we have working on some of the chassis stuff. It's odd to get, I think, a group of people that are motivated and excited about the same thing. And I'm really enjoying the experience of being able to collaborate with these people that have the same motivation and the same drive and the same real passion for doing this thing the right way. It's just all around an incredible experience so far, and it's not over yet. So,
do you guys have a end date or a finish date that you have on the calendar? Is that set in stone?
Yeah, Rob has an unofficial target of the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance in 2016. So
okay,
that's
that's just about a year from now, 11 months. So
yeah, and we're moving forward every day. So it's a challenge.
That'll be great. What color is it going to be?
That's a good question, and it's undecided.
Undecided.
So we've been talking about potentially doing maybe a contest online where we put some different renderings up and see what people think.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. But not sure yet, so that's
all right.
Interesting piece of the puzzle.
There we go. All right, Sean, here's a funny question for you. If you were a car, what kind of car would you be and why?
Well, I guess the easy answer here is the Tucker.
Of course.
I'm gonna go away from that one just to be a little different. I think the one that comes to mind is actually a fairly modern car. Well, it's a very modern car. Is the Tesla Model S. And
wow.
I think the reason that is, I personally see a lot of similarities between what Tesla's trying to do and maybe what Tucker was attempting to do, and in that, everybody's kind of going one direction with regards to the industry, and they said, you know what, we found this other thing, and we're going to go do this. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very difficult thing to do, which I think they're experiencing a little bit, but nonetheless, something I would do on my own. So I'm really impressed with the Tesla. Great looking car, good performance. I really think they're got a really good concept there.
I do too. I love what they're doing. I think it's great. Of course, Elon Musk, amazing gentleman, not unlike your great grandfather, really a visionary, somebody that has this whole other idea of how things can be. And I was fortunate enough to get a to spend an entire day with an actual Tucker photographing the car,
wow.
crawling around it, getting in it. It was from the LeMay Museum. And here in Tacoma, the blue car, and it was really revealing to me, getting up close and personal, because I've been around a lot of old cars, photographed a lot of old cars, and all the little different nuances of what your great grandfather did. So I think that's great that you chose a Tesla for what kind of car you would be. So Sean, up next is the last lap, but before we put the pedal to the metal, here's a word from our sponsor. Award-winning author and designer Dwight Knowlton has done it again. His book, The Greatest Race, is now available. The Greatest Race is the story of Sir Stirling Moss's epic and record-crushing win of the 1955 Mille Miglia in the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR. In collaboration with Sir Stirling Moss himself, Dwight has created a wonderful children's book from this epic race as a follow-up to his best-selling book, The Little Red Racing Car. I have my own copy of The Greatest Race, and I can tell you, this kid's impressed. Like his previous book, this one is printed in the USA. Check out Dwight's Carpe Diem brand, where you can find both of his books, shirts, and more that embrace his Seize the Road philosophy. Enjoy Carpe Diem at carpegear.com, and be sure to sign up for his newsletter while you're at his website. That's carpegear.com, C-A-R-P-E gear.com. All right, we're back, Sean, and we're entering the last lap, and this is where I fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some real quick blips of the throttle answers. So are you ready?
I am ready.
Great. What is the best automotive advice you've ever received?
I would say early in my career, I was told, don't be afraid to say that you don't know. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yes.
I think it's an easy one, but I think it gets missed sometimes.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a great one. Would you share one of your personal habits that you believe has contributed to your success?
I think one of the things that I take pride in is being reliable and following through on commitments. So, with different projects that I'm involved with at the shop or even in my professional career, I really try to be very good about being on top of whatever it is, communicating the statuses, and really, coming through with what I said I was going to do. So it's something that's important to me. Great.
Do you have a resource that you'd like to share with our listeners that you think they would really enjoy?
Probably Rob Ida Concepts, Ida Automotive. If you're looking for a really special car,
yeah,
they're the guys you go to. I also run a small company called Preston Tucker LLC that we try to promote the legacy of Preston Tucker and some of the projects, and are getting into more of the hot rod fabrication stuff with Rob. So those are the three.
Awesome. Great. How about a book? Is there one book in particular you think the Cars Yeah listeners would really enjoy?
Now, this one was a tough one because Rob Ida actually took my book. in his interview, he used the Untitled Goose, which is like, quintessential Tucker book.
Uh-huh.
One of the other guys that was a part of Preston's life was Harry Miller, legendary race car builder.
Oh, yeah.
The book I would pick is The Miller Dynasty, A Technical History of the Work of Harry A. Miller. It's a really, really great book on the research and work of Harry Miller.
Oh, yeah. I love that book. I have a copy of that. And a Miller IndyCar was another vehicle I got to spend a day with that was just a marvelous machine. I think it was from the early 30s, maybe. I don't remember the exact date, but just a beautiful piece of jewelry, if you will.
Right.
Simple, but just absolutely fantastic. I love it. Mm-hmm. Well, listeners, you can find these resources at carsyeah.com/Sean Tucker. Do you have any interesting hobbies outside of your passion for cars, Sean?
I do. I sometimes think I have too many hobbies. I own a house that was built in 1935 that we're currently restoring to its original splendor.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's a bit of a project.
Oh, yes.
I do competition barbecue, which is just a little unusual.
Competition barbecue. Wow.
Yep. We go out for a weekend and cook a bunch of meat, and somebody judges it, and it's a pretty good time.
All right.
Most recently, I've got involved into custom chocolate molding, which
oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's kind of a function of it's actually in support of our wedding in June. One thing I thought of that I could do once we have the CAD model of the cars, I thought, hey, I could make little kind of chocolate Tucker cars and pass them out for the wedding. So
great idea.
I had we sent out the model, and I had a mold made, and now I'm making little Tucker cars. So it's worked out pretty well.
That's cool. Years ago, I worked at a company, and one of the Christmas gifts that we marketed was a set of chocolate tools. So hammer, wrench, and pliers and screwdriver, and a little looked like a little toolbox, but they were all chocolate. You could eat them. So I love that. That's great. Very interesting hobbies you have in your life. That's wonderful. All right, Sean, we're up to the checkered flag, and this last question can be a real doozy. If you could only have one collector car in your garage, but don't worry about the cost, because today I'll pay for whatever it is, what would that one vehicle be, and why?
This is where I'm going to take the easy way out. It's definitely going to be the Tucker 48.
Yeah, I kind of thought so. Why not?
Yeah, and I guess the interesting thing is the Tucker family doesn't own any Tucker cars at all, and it hasn't for some time. And to be able to be the keeper of one of those and show it to the next generation would just be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the car.
Well, they've become such collector pieces, and like many cars these days, the value and price points of those things have just gone through the roof.
Right, and it's almost a bit of a catch-22 for me. It's kind of like seeing your favorite sports team do really well when when one of them sells for a lot of money, but then on the other side, it's, oh, well, that just got that much farther out of reach. So.
Yes, I understand. There's many of my dream cars that have I see them evaporating before my eyes. They've just become so valuable. So, that's the way it is. But I sure hope that a Tucker finds its way back to the Tucker family at some point. It just seems like it's the right thing to have happen. But maybe you can have Rob make you one as you are. And, you'll come close.
That was going to be the next idea.
Yes, absolutely. Sean, you've taken me on a great ride today, and I've really enjoyed your stories. And I want to thank you for sharing your journey and your family's journey with me and the Cars Yeah listeners. It's been really fascinating. Could you give us one parting piece of guidance before you drive off into the sunset in your Tucker?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's important these days is just getting involved in the things that you want to do. I mean, don't be afraid to get involved in a project or send somebody on Instagram or Facebook an email to say, hey, can I get involved into this stuff? Because a lot of times, especially with the resources that are out there, it's possible, and you can do things that you might never have thought you had the opportunity to do. I mean, it certainly happened for me. Yeah,
absolutely. Great advice. And what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and the Tucker family and the project you're working on with Rob?
I have a website it's on www.tuckercorporation.com. Also Rob Ida's website, which is robidaconcepts.com. And we are both on Instagram. You can find Rob at Rob Ida, and I am at Sean Tucker 48, and on Facebook at Preston Tucker LLC and Ida Automotive.
Awesome. Great. Well, listeners, you can find links to everything that Sean has shared with us today. Again, at carsyeah.com, just put Sean, S-E-A-N, in the search box, and his show notes page will pop up with links to everything. Sean, thanks for being so generous today with your time and your expertise, and for sharing your experiences and your journey with me and the listeners. Until we talk again, I'll see you down the road.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.